Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. I'm Angela Wolf, and we are at your side virtually today. If you've never been here before, say hi, say where you're from. We are live streaming on Brother Sewing and Crafting Facebook and YouTube page. So we can see your comments as we get rolling. If you have questions, you can ask those as well. Today, we have Tina. You have not met her yet on the live show, and I'm very excited because she's got some awesome things to share with you. So I'm going to bring Tina up here. She's a Brother Educator, and I'm a Brother Brand Ambassador. Hi, Tina. How are you?
Angela, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm very excited as well. So everyone, give Tina a very warm welcome to the party. And so what are you going to be showing us today? I can see a lot of the Brother fans rolling in saying hello. Very excited to see you.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about a lot of applique techniques and how easy it is. I'll be featuring the Stellaire embroidery machine and also the ScanNCut, but a lot of what we talk about on the Stellaire would be true on the Luminaire as well.
That's awesome. Everybody always likes to know that because sometimes when we're using one machine, a lot of the Brother fans have a whole plethora of machines. So it's great that they can use it in different areas. So this is awesome. So everyone, this is going to be very fun. If you've never been here before, again, say where you're from. As we get rolling, Tina will take a few little breaks so we can break up if you have questions or comments. And I cannot wait to see what you have for us. So take it away, Tina.
All right. So I'm just going to pop over to the machine really quickly. So here I am at the Stellaire. And these are I'm on the embroidery screen, and you can see I've got all kinds of beautiful designs on the machine. But category 11 has some special applique designs. So if we pop in here really quick, you can see I've got all kinds of beautiful ones. And as we're looking at this, this is really a pretty design. You may notice here where it's showing the thread colors that this might look a little bit different than a traditional embroidery design. And that's because these designs already have the cut information for the ScanNCut included in the embroidery design itself. So if you can see the first three here, they have the little scissor icon on it. Those are actually the cut lines so that you can pre-cut the fabric for all three of the little bases. Isn't that amazing? I just love that so much. And so, you know, all I have to do for this design here is save it. I can either send it to my ScanNCut wirelessly, or I could put it on a USB by saving it into the memory here and picking USB. And then let's just pop over on the ScanNCut and see how that information gets picked up. So let's pop over here real quick.
So I have to say, Tina, as you're rolling on that, I know the big wow thing, and a lot of people don't even probably realize that they can send that straight from their machine to the ScanNCut, which I think is super cool. But also on here, to be able to cut your appliques out without having to, well, you can still use scissors if you want to, but this just makes it so much faster.
Yeah, it really is amazing. So let's come in here and retrieve a design. And so for this, I actually have a USB in here. Oops. And of course, I picked a different design than I just pulled up on the machine. So we can fix that really quickly. I'll be right back.
That's what we love about live, but although those designs are pretty cute too.
They really are cute, aren't they?
Welcome, everyone.
Oops. Excuse the back of my head for a second here. All right, so let's go back in here and pick up the same design I just had on screen. All right, so we're going to come in here, and here's our bases. Now, you notice when I open it up, and remember, this is in the embroidery file format, so it's not in the FCM file format we usually have on the ScanNCut. This is in the PHX format that the machine saved on. And so when I open it, you'll see I have some choices down here. Now, I told you it includes the cut information, and so to access that, you go to this second icon here, and when I push it, you'll notice that it knows exactly what to cut for each one of the bases. And what it's doing is it's picking up that placement line, so it'll be perfectly sized when you do the when you actually do the cut. Isn't that amazing?
That is.
And so basically then, you know, you would pick a base and go to OK. Now, I would recommend at this, you know, you want to make sure your fabric that you're cutting matches the size of your design. But I know many of us have had the experience that we cut our applique fabric exactly the size of the design, and sometimes not all of it gets captured when we do the finishing stitch. Have you ever had that happen, Angela?
Oh, I think so. In fact, I'll ask the brother fans. How many times have you had that happen? I would guess that there's quite a few of these.
Yeah, I've had that same experience. And so while I wouldn't recommend a lot of size changes in here, we do have an offset button right here. And what that does is I can actually bump out the cut line just a little bit for the applique fabric to make sure that it gets captured while we're finishing up the rest of the design. And my favorite setting here is just hit the plus sign one time. That 0.04 is a perfect offset distance. It's going to make sure that the fabric piece that you cut is perfect every single time. And then you just go through the rest of your cutting routine here, right? If you wanted to put the mat in and scan the fabric to place it, of course you could do that. And then once you're through here, of course, you would select for your action cut, right? Because we're going to cut fabric. And when we're cutting fabric, it's different than when we're doing heat transfer vinyl. We actually want to cut all the way through the fabric, right? So we just pop into our settings here, and we're going to make sure when we go to this next page that our half cut is turned off. Half cut would only cut through half the material. We actually want to cut all the way through, and then we would be ready to cut. So it's super simple to cut your applique shapes with the ScanNCut. I mean, and they come out perfect every time. So let's do a little sample show. I've got some of these stitched out for you just so we can see. Here's
that's so cute.
Isn't that adorable? I love it. I actually put it on a little artboard so I could hang it on the wall, added some text to it, but it's just a beautiful design. It stitches out so well. Love
That's adorable. And that was built into the machine.
Yeah, this is built into the machine. Look at this one. So next up, this one's also in the machine. Look at that little kitty. So the black here is an applique fabric, and all that detailing is included in that design on the machine. Isn't that amazing?
That is so cute. Susan Fisher, are you watching this? You need this for your cats. This is so cute.
So cute. And here's another one that's actually on there with the tea time. Isn't that cute? So these are each applique pieces. Now, a couple of things about these designs. They feature a blanket stitch for the finishing stitch, right? And so if you've used the ScanNCut before, then you know on a blanket stitch, especially if the item's going to be handled a lot, you know, a lot of times we like to put a fusible on the back of our fabric when we're doing it. Brother, of course, has the applique contact sheets, which is a two-sided iron-on fusible that you can iron directly onto the back of the fabric. And then because I'm using an iron-on fusible, you see I'm using the standard tack mat here, and I would use that in combination with the standard blade, okay? And before we got started this morning, I went ahead and ran this through the cutter so you guys can see how perfect this cuts. So it's already been cut, and all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lift up. That was my test cut, by the way. I always recommend a test cut to make sure that you're getting a good result when you're cutting. But check this out. No fussy cutting involved at all. It's super quick, super easy. It even cut out the little parts here in the middle of the handle. And so all I have to do as I'm doing my applique, you can see here how it also cut out the little handle, is I'll do that first placement stitch. I'll lay my perfectly cut fabric pieces within those, do the tack down, and then I'll do the finishing stitch. Isn't that amazing?
That looks so great. So by the way, I see a ton of questions rolling in, and don't worry, you can go back and watch this from the beginning, those of you that rolled in a little bit late, but she found these designs they're in her brother's Stellaire. So I saw a lot of people saying, what embroidery machine are you using? The Stellaire. And what ScanNCut are you using?
I actually have the Disney version.
Okay.
So the DX.
And I think that helps. So that's the machine she's using. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have specific designs on your brother machine. So go look in your brother machine because each one has different little sections. I know the Luminaire has separate ones. So go check it out. And you go to iBroidery as well and find not these exact designs, but you can also find designs in there. So.
Correct. All right. So that's an easy technique, again, using the designs that are on the machine. But let's go back to the machine. And let's look at some of the other things that we can do here. You know, I get a lot of questions when I'm out around the country. You know, people really love the applique technique, and they're always looking for new designs, right? So let's say you wanted to do something. I had an idea yesterday to make a little floral applique pattern and use little hearts for the flowers, right? And so a really easy way to do an applique using that is, look, I could come into the frame section here. And so we already have all these beautiful shapes that are in here. And of course, here's my heart shape right here. So I'm going to select here. And you'll notice once you choose a shape, you have all kinds of different stitch patterns here to choose from, right? And so if we think about an applique, typically the placement and the tack down lines are going to be a run stitch, right? So I would pick this one here. And I would go ahead and set it, okay? Now, I'm going to change, I want to show you something that's really a cool feature on this machine. I want to make sure everybody knows it's here. If right now there's no cut data on this because the frames are used for lots of different things, but if I want to add cut data to it for the ScanNCut, all I have to do is go to my edit screen and I go to the color of thread, so it's this icon right here. And then I want to be in the embroidery palette, thread palette here, so you just see embroidery here. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And the last 3 colors are special characters, and those are just for applique. So this first one with the scissors is the cut line. The next one is the placement or positioning option. And then the third one here would be the finishing stitch, right? And so if I want to be able to cut this on my ScanNCut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the icon with the scissors to it as our thread color, and then the ScanNCut will actually pick that up for me. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
And then to finish out, you know, the applique, that's my placement line. Then I would do a copy of it. And if you want to center them on top of each other, the quick way to do it is come in here to the size icon, and then just come right down here and hit that center button. And now they're on top of each other. And while it's still selected, I don't need this to be a cut line, right? I can come back in here and I can set it to the positioning line if I wanted to. And then what I need is a finishing stitch, right? So I can run right back in there. I'm going to add another frame. So I'm going to go to add because I'm picking a different finish. Come back into my frames right here. Go back into my hearts. And then I've got all kinds of things I could use. I could use a classic satin stitch or any of these other, I've got a blanket stitch here. I've got ropes. You know, any of these would be fine. Let's say I'm going to pick the satin stitch here and I'll set it. And now I have an applique file that's ready to stitch. Isn't that amazing?
That is so easy to do. I'm watching everyone saying, this is so cool. This is so cool. And I saw some of your questions about the map. We'll go back to that in a minute. So don't worry, we saw those. So I want to keep what Tina's doing. And when we get back to the ScanNCut, I'll take those questions for you.
Okay, so let's just really quick, I went ahead and stitched this out just so you can kind of see. Really super simple, right? So the little flower heads are just made out of the hearts just the way I did at the machine. The little foliage patterns, actually I pulled out of the ScanNCut. So later on in our segment, I'm also going to show you how you can use all the shapes and the patterns that are on your ScanNCut and turn those into applique files as well. Isn't that fun?
I love that, Tina. Hey, while you're over at your sample tables, there was one quick question on here. Someone wanted to know if you have your samples still right there. Hold on one sec. She was asking what fabric, which I thought it was, your first 3 samples were so adorable. People are still talking about those. Carolyn wanted to know, what material did you use to be able to see the flower bulbs at the end?
So this is actually organza. I use 3 different colors of organza. And you know, it can be kind of a delicate fabric sometimes to work with, but I put that applique contact sheet, that iron-on fusible on the back, and it cut perfectly with a ScanNCut, and it was so quick and easy to do.
Carolyn, that was such a great question because I was just thinking that was fabric and you embroidered over it. Caroline had her eye right on that. That is awesome. And then also, someone was just asking about this, why they were saying, can't you use the fabric mat, but you cannot use that if you have that backing that you had on there.
Yeah, actually, you have better cut results when you have the iron-on fusible with a standard mat and the standard blade. I will show you later on today using the fabric mat and the new thin fabric auto blade. So we'll definitely cover that before we're finished today.
Awesome. All right. This is fantastic. I love these samples.
Yeah, they make it more real, don't they?
They do.
All right, so let's pop back over to the machine. And there's another feature in here. So I'm just going to clear my screen. I could use the backup button several times, but it's quick to just hit the home button here. And then I'm back in here. So you also have the ability to take designs that are on the machine and turn those into appliques as well. So I'm going to do a quick one here. My youngest daughter loves Winnie the Pooh, and I happen to have some adorable Winnie the Pooh designs here in the Disney section. So here's my cute little Winnie. So we'll pull them up really quick. Now, obviously, when you look at this, this isn't set up to be an applique file. It's a normal fill stitch design. But if we want to turn it into an applique really quickly, once I hit set, I can pop in here to my edit screen. And I have, remember the icon from the ScanNCut that I used to identify the cut data? Look just like this badge. I'm going to use the same icon here. And look what it did. It automatically added the cut line, the positioning line, and the satin stitch border. Isn't that amazing? I love that.
That is so easy to do. One quick touch of a button. That's it.
That's all it takes. Now, if you haven't used this feature before, the actual construction of the design, I'm just going to pop into the embroidery screen. Notice what the sequence here. You're going to stitch out Winnie the Pooh first, and then after that's done, you'll see the cut line, the positioning line, and the finish line, right? So that's a little bit of a different order than maybe most of us are accustomed to when doing traditional applique. So I'm going to pop back over to the sample table, and I'm going to basically walk you through how we would do this one. Okay. So here I have fabric and a stabilizer in the hoop. I've stitched out the whole Winnie the Pooh design, and then here I've stitched that first cut line, right, that was added by the machine. And so after this, I would basically pop this out of the hoop, and I could take a pair of scissors, and this is for those of you who may not have a ScanNCut. I could take a pair of scissors and I would cut right on that yellow outline line there. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
All right, and so then once I had done that, I would, wherever I was going to plan on placing the applique, I would hoop another piece of fabric in the appropriate stabilizer, and I would stitch out that positioning line. That's that second line that we added. And here's my little Winnie that I've already cut. And I used a spray adhesive on the back to hold him in place. And then I would basically just set him back on the machine, and it would add that final satin stitch border. Isn't that adorable?
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love that little bag, but I can think of little towels, little gifts. Oh my goodness, that is adorable. Adorable.
It's really a cute technique. And if any of you are interested in making patches, it's a great way to make patches. And in fact, that's what I've done with this guy here. So in that case, I would actually trim, I would fussy cut, if I didn't pre-cut it with my ScanNCut, around the outline here. And then I would layer in my satin stitches around the border. And then basically once I was done, I would put an iron-on fusible on the back, and then I'd have an iron-on patch, easy peasy.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute. Everybody's saying adorable, and it's so simple. Just one touch of a button.
It's super simple, and I just love that they thought through giving us that cut line and stitches. I mean, we can follow that with our scissors really easily. So isn't that a fun idea?
Very, very fun. Awesome. All right, what else do you have? And Marie, you are so welcome. She says, thank you for putting descriptions. I did that just for you. And the handful that said, please put descriptions, because then she did not want to miss the applique show. You're welcome, Marie. I'll try to do that for all the live shows now.
Okay. All right. So next up, I'm going to pop back over to the machine. I hope no one's getting dizzy with all these. All right.
They're not. They're loving it.
So I'm going to guess most of our viewers probably have, I don't know, a few applique designs maybe that they bought from another vendor that aren't on their machine or aren't on their ScanNCut. That sounds like it's probably true, doesn't it?
Probably. Maybe.
All right. So a lot of times when you're using designs from other vendors, they don't include the cut line information, right? So you can't, it's a little bit harder for you to use your ScanNCut. But let me show you a really, really easy way to take an applique file that no matter where you get it and automatically add in that ScanNCut cut line. All right, you ready?
We are ready.
All right, so I'm going back into embroidery. Now you guys are going to see, I actually digitized this design myself, and you're going to see in about 2 seconds why I'm not a professional artist or a digitizer. All right, so it's a simple flower. It does have the placement, the tack down, and the finishing stitch. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little swirly doodad in the middle, right? But as of right now, it doesn't have any cut line information in it, okay? So remember what we did a few minutes ago. We can come in and add that cut line information simply by going to the Edit menu and then dropping down to our thread colors. Make sure, now again, there's lots of different thread palettes here on the machine, right? So we want to make sure that we're in the embroidery thread palette, and then we're going to scroll down to the bottom here. And here's my cut line. It's got the little scissors on it. And as soon as I do that, we can now read it at the ScanNCut. So let's go over the ScanNCut and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we're just going to pop over here and I'll pull that design up. All right, so here's my little flower design. All right, and because I went in and I assigned that special thread color to my placement line, you notice I get this icon here, which is going to pull in the applique cut file. So I can just pop in here really quickly. And sure enough, it knows exactly what it's supposed to cut. And then I can just basically finish through that cut process. Isn't that cool? I love it.
So easy to do. I love all these extra examples too, because I could see this working for a lot of people. And by the way, great job digitizing.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't quit my day job anytime soon though, right? All right, so I'm just going to pop over here just so you can see. So again, you know, I started the stitch out here. So I've got the placement line that's been stitched. And again, I have my fabric right here, and it's already been cut, right? And so all I have to do, no fussy cutting required. It fits perfectly. There's no, you know, size discrepancies or anything else. It's just such a quick and easy, and honestly, a really enjoyable way to do applique.
I prefer this so much better, by the way. I actually use the ScanNCut to cut all of my appliques, unless it's something too thick, of course. And somebody was asking, speaking of too thick, while you're over at that table, you had the one you showed last time with the Winnie the Pooh. That was a little bit thicker. Could you still cut that with the ScanNCut, or would you cut that with scissors?
I actually cut it with a ScanNCut. It's actually, I used dark denim fabric as the background, and it cut fine on the ScanNCut. No problem.
Oh, wonderful, because I saw a couple, there was a couple questions about that. From this side, it looked like a towel, but a dark denim, but it cut fine with dark denim too, which is perfect. So thanks for sharing that.
No problem. All right, so now I think maybe we'll take a little bit of a different tack on this, and I want to start this time with the sample. So I know we've got lots of folks out there who love these antique sewing machines, aren't they? Isn't that cute?
Oh, that's gorgeous.
So this time, when we're doing our applique, we're going to actually pull one of the patterns that's on the ScanNCut. That's where I got the sewing machine shape. And we're going to see how we can convert it so that we can take it back into the embroidery machine and turn it into an applique file. Doesn't it sound like a good one?
That sure does.
All right, so we're going to pop back over to the ScanNCut for a second here. And I'll show you how I retrieve the pattern, because we do have to, this particular shape is actually made up of two different pieces, okay? So we're gonna pop into our patterns, and it's in this icon here, and then all the hobbies are in this one with the gear and the trumpet. Probably called it the wrong horn, but you can see the sewing machine is right here. So I'm gonna select it. Now, at this point, you would want to size it, you know, depending on what you're working on. And so it's easy to do. You'll notice as I hit the plus sign, it's making it both taller and wider at the same time, okay? So once you're happy with the size, we'll go into OK. Now, this is where I said it's actually made up of 3 pieces, right? I want to cut the whole thing out of a single piece of fabric. And so I'm actually going to come to this guy right here, which is both pieces together. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and set it. So now it's time to edit it, right? So I don't want it to cut into 2 pieces, which you can see on the screen. So I'm going to come into my edit screen. I'm going to go to Object Edit. I'm going to group all the parts together here. And once I do that, this is my weld icon, which is going to basically make two pieces into one. So I'll select that. And what it's telling me is that it's welded the pattern into one piece. And before it does it, I have a chance to rethink it, but that's exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to say, okay.
By the way, I love that it lets you rethink. Are you sure you wanted that? If you don't, it's really easy to undo it.
No, I think the ScanNCut has worked with me before, huh? All right. So at this point, again, if you want to add the offset just to make sure that, you know, you get a good capture at the machine, you also can access the offset right in here. So the icon looks exactly the same. I would set it to that 0.4 distance and hit OK. Now, in this particular example, it's made a copy, so my offset is a second copy. So I'm going to select the original here and come back and delete it. And now I have the larger pattern that's right here. All right, does that make sense?
It sure does.
All right, so now let's talk about a different way that we can cut our fabric. So I'm going to come right over here for a second. Now, I know you got some questions earlier about the new fabric mat and the thin fabric auto blade. And what I love about Brother is that they match the color, so I don't ever have to try and remember or refer to the manual to make sure I have the right tool. So in this case, I don't have a fusible on the back of my fabric because I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a satin stitch border around here, so I didn't need to have the iron-on fusible. But I did pre-treat my fabric with some starch, and so I spray starched it till it was nice and stiff. And what that does is it removes the stretch in the fabric across the bias so that it feeds better in the machine and it cuts better. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
All right, and so literally it ran through really quickly. You can see again, test cut, always recommend a test cut, but I have a perfectly cut sewing machine and I'm ready to go. Amazing, I just love that so much.
That sewing machine is so cool. So KM wants to know, when you were doing that design in there, just while you have that one up, you don't have to go back and show, but are you able to change the shape of that design, make it longer or wider?
Yeah, I can. Actually, let's pop back over here. And we'll come back in. So she wants to change it only in one direction?
I believe so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here in my sizing button, you can see there's this icon that's highlighted here, and it's basically maintain aspect ratio, which says if I make it taller, it also makes it wider. If you don't want that to happen, you can turn it off, and then it'll only change the size in one of the dimensions and not both.
Perfect. That answers her question, I think. Great question there. I love that sewing machine though, and that is really cute.
And it's such a popular shape, right? And the fact that now I can take, what do we have, over 1,100 designs on the ScanNCut that we can now use to do other projects in applique. It's just really, really fun. Now, I wonder if anyone yet has wondered how I got my embroidery machine to read my ScanNCut format.
I'll bet you there are a few questions about that. I'm just going to guess, but I'm going to say definitely yes.
All right. So I want to show you, this next part is really, I love it. It makes me really happy. So we're going to come in here. So here's my sewing machine, right? Now, the embroidery machine doesn't natively read the FCM format, but with a Stellaire, we have that My Design Snap app, right? And that allows us to take a picture with our camera, our cell phone camera, and send it over to the machine so that we can play with it in the design center. So what I did to make this happen here is here's my sewing machine. And when I'm cutting the fabric, like if I'm ready to cut the fabric, of course, I'd come in here and the action that I would select would be cut. And like last time, I would want to make sure under settings that my half cut was turned off because I want to cut all the way through the piece of fabric, right? But when I'm trying to capture the design to use in the My Design Snap, what I can do that time is I can select draw, right? And this is really fun. So, you know, the machines come with a universal pen holder. And they also come with a set of pens. And so this time, because I have paper on my mat, I'm using the low tack mat. So that has the blue here. And then if you haven't used it before, this is the pen holder that comes on the machine. And all you have to do is open it up just like that. And here's one of the pens. You get lots of pens in there. I think there's 6 different colored pens, and then you have 2 that erase either with air or water. I want to draw this, so I'm using one of the colored markers. I'm going to take the top off of my marker, and then I'm basically just going to put it down in the pen holder and shut the lid. And then let's come back over to the machine here so you can see. We're going to come out a little bit. I'm going to show you how you put the pen holder in the machine. It basically goes in where the blade holder goes. Here we go. So I'm going to make sure that this is open. I'll set this in, and then I'll lock it. All right. And then all I have to do is feed in my mat. Now I already drew this, so I'm just going to turn the piece of paper over to the other side. And let's watch it draw this for a second for us, okay? So here's my mat. And again, if you're not familiar with the machine, first thing that you want to do is load your mat with this icon here. It's going to take the mat in. All right, and now it's ready. And I've already tested, so I'm just going to hit the start button. And this is so fun. Like, I don't even need to worry about not being an artist since my machine can do all of this drawing for me.
That's very easy. And actually, someone was just asking about, can you put a design in there? If you have a photo or a JPEG, can you convert it? But I'm not sure if he was talking about for the embroidery or the ScanNCut. So be a little bit more clear on that, and I can ask Tina that. But this is amazing. I love this, and I love the little pens, especially the ones that are air erasable and wash away erasable. Just remember which one's which, especially if you're going to be there for a while.
Isn't that cool? And then I'm just going to unload my mat, and so we can come over here and take a look really quick at the drawing. So look how perfect that is. I could have never done that by hand. There's just no way I could have ever had that kind of a result by hand. So it's
that's gorgeous, Tina. That's absolutely gorgeous. And actually, you could use that for cards. You could use it for invitations, anything like that, very quickly and easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is a nice feature of the machine. So then the question is, how do I get this drawing to the embroidery machine? Have you ever done this one yet, Angela?
I don't know. Show me.
All right, so let's do it. So here's a design that I took earlier. So I drew it out a little bit bigger. This is the actual size I used on that little purse. Okay. And I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to bring up the My Design Snap app. So I have all my Brother apps in here. So I'm going to go to My Design Snap, which is right here. All right. And what it's asking me to do right now, hold on one second. It's going to basically have me take a picture of this. Okay, here we go. It was stuck on something a second ago. So let's see. I'm basically holding my phone over it. And notice that, before I do that, notice that the still air, for those of you with a Luminaire, the still air has special hoops, and these little markings that are on the hoop allow the machine to figure out positioning and know exactly how big things are, okay? So as I'm taking the picture, I want to make sure, like I don't have it hooped, it's on paper, but I've laid it underneath the hoop. And when I take the picture now with my phone, it's going to basically have me lift it up a little bit, and it says hold 1, 2, 3, just so you guys can see. And then it's going to actually take the picture. Here we go. All right, so it's taken the picture. You can see here. And then all I'll do is push this button to send it to the machine. All right. So now let's pop back over the machine and see what we do with this.
Very easy. The app, I have had people in the past say, I don't know, is it hard to use? You just 2 clicks of a button and you're finished. That was very easy. You're making everything look so simple for everyone. And I hope, I saw some people saying, can I go back and watch this video again? Yes, you can. Don't worry. You'll be able to watch it as soon as we're not live again. Watch the replay.
Absolutely. And the app is really, really simple. You know, you use it to get things positioned in the hoop so the machine knows where the design is, and you can use it for this capture. So I've sent the picture. To retrieve the picture, I'm going to come into the design center, my design center here, and I'm going to go to image. Okay. Now I sent it to the machine wirelessly. So when I go to retrieve it, I'm going to go to the wireless icon here. And I've sent lots of things to my machine. The most recent thing that you've sent is at the top. So when I click right in here, you can, I don't know if you can see, but there's the little sewing machine drawing here. So that's what I want. So I'm going to hit the set button. So here's my sewing machine picture. Now the little arrows here are to allow me to crop the image and basically get rid of all the stuff that I don't want to be part of my design when I'm done. So I'm just going to, whoops, I don't want to cut off the machine, but I'm just going to get rid of some of this at the bottom that I don't need. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit up top too. Okay. I think I'm having too much coffee this morning. That looks good to me. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to basically translate a picture now into an outline. So we'll see how we do here. Takes it just a few seconds.
It just takes a few seconds. I'm reading all the comments. So Deborah says she has the Luminaire. So yes, you still have the app, but you don't need those hoops. Those hoops are specific to the Stellaire at this time, Deborah. So you're fine.
Correct. And also, Deborah, for your Luminaire, you could actually put the picture of the sewing machine in one of your hoops and use the scanning feature in the Luminaire in the Design Center. All right, so it looks like it didn't love that one so much. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to retry that again. Give it a second. This is when you love, you do something earlier and it works really quick, right?
Oh, it's just because it's live. Everybody knows it too. We're always like waiting for who runs out of bobbin thread, whose needle breaks, you know.
All that usual stuff, right? All right, so I've got an outline here. I think I'm going to reduce the color. I'm going to try one more time. So this is real life. As you're working on this, you can retry. If at first you don't succeed, you know, change some of the settings here and let it re-render the image. So do we have any questions while we're waiting, Angela?
There was just a few questions. Just scanning through to see which ones we haven't answered yet.
All right. All right, so it looks like I got rid of the background. I'm just going to increase the colors and try.
Jan says, will the ink run if the drawing gets wet? Well, hopefully your drawing doesn't get wet. But if you have ever watched May's, when May's been on the show, she uses watercolor pens in the ScanNCut, and that's when you want it to be wet. So I just thought that was kind of a cute thing.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And can use different colors. I'm assuming you're referring to in the ScanNCut. Yes, you can use different colors of pens. I'm not really quite sure what you mean for that with the different colors, but yes, you can. And also, if you have the extra pen attachment, you can use other pens too. So just so you know.
All right, so I'm going to rotate this guy. And I'm going to turn off the drawing in the background so I can just see what I'm left with here. And then we got a little bit of cleanup to do. It did carry in some of my background, but basically I just can take in my eraser and start getting rid of some of these tools that are in here, okay? So really easy and quick to bring that in and clean up the image. And then once it's clean, of course, I can come into my settings and I can assign whatever kind of stitch type I want to it. And then come back in with the bucket. And then I can click on the sewing machine and it will turn that picture then directly into stitches. And then basically, you know, I would I could manipulate it into the placement, the tack down, and then the satin stitch. So really easy to do, and a fun technique while we're in here.
Very easy to do. Very easy to do. And just one more thing. Yes, you were talking about, he had asked about changing colors for embroidery. Yes, you can. Yes, you can very easily.
So yes, while you're in here in the settings key, you can actually, if you want it to be a different color, you can pick a color here. And then again, once you hit the bucket and click on it, it'll update that color for you directly. Okay? Thanks,
Tina.
Now I want to show you one other thing because it's really fun. And you know, another place that you can get shapes for applique is here in the design center. So if you guys haven't played with the shapes, it's really a fun area. The icon is, I guess they call it shapes because it's got a circle and a square. So we're going to pop in here and we've got all of these closed shapes in here. We also, in the next area, right, we've got some other fun ones that are in here. We've got some open shapes and some decorative things in this option. And then, of course, if I had created a stamp, and I'll show you that in a second, it would be here. So these are where I've created an outline of designs, which I did in this one. And you can also access your hoop sizes in here. And you would do that if you were planning maybe to add some quilting stitches around the outside. All right. So let's come in here. Whoops. Let's come in here. And there is a teddy bear shape in here that is just so cute. Look how cute this is. I love this guy. So here's my little teddy bear on the screen. And so let's go through this. Maybe, let's say I'm going to put it on a little toddler t-shirt, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I might adjust the size. So I'll click on size and kind of look. That's probably, right now it's about 6.2 by 6.6 inches. So that's a little big for a toddler shirt. So I'm just going to make it smaller. Now I don't have to worry about stitch recalculation or any of that at this point because it's a picture, right? It's not stitches yet. It's a picture that I'm going to turn into stitches. So I'm going to get it down a little bit smaller, just like this. All right. So that's a good size. So now it's time to assign a stitch to it. So just like we did a second ago, these are my line settings at the top of the design center. So I'm going to go into settings. I'm going to select a run stitch, and let's say we pick a color. I'm going to pick something that's going to actually show up for you guys. And then I'm just going to click on the bucket, and now it's been updated. Now at this point, I'm going to save it into the pocket. So, and I'm saving it to the machine, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to pick it up and play with it again. So I've saved it, okay? And now we're going to come back out here. And I'm going to go to the next screen. And this is where I can change any of the settings. So this would be a placement stitch. So it's in a run stitch, and it's got a good stitch length. So I'm pretty good with that. I'm going to come in here to preview. And now it's telling me that it's no longer a picture. It's going to be turned into stitches. So I'll just take that. And so now what I have here is a run stitch, okay? So there's my placement line. So we'll set that. That's good. And then to make the tack down, I just go to Edit, and I make a copy of it. I'll go to Size. I'll go to Center. And then I have those two set. And again, if I wanted to go back and use the ScanNCut to cut it, I would just pop in here, like we've done before, and I would assign that special thread color at the bottom of the embroidery palette for the cut line. So then I would have that, okay? So now what I need to do is I want to add a copy of this, which would be my satin stitch border. So I'd be Add. I'll go back to the Design Center. Let's see. You know what? I don't think I saved it last time. I think I went in the wrong direction. So we'll just grab them real quick again. Easy peasy.
Tina, while you're floating that around, I wasn't even paying attention to this because I'm always using the touch screen. But someone said, is she using the mouse? How is she doing that?
Yeah, I love the mouse. I am just better with the mouse than I am with anything else. So I'm just sitting here with a wired mouse that I got at a big box store. I think it was under $10.
Oh my gosh, I'm reading that. And okay, so I have a friend right now visiting named Gus, and we won't go there. I'm still trying to catch the little guy. And when you're like mouse or touch, I'm like, my mind is in the wrong place. That's very cool. So
yeah, it's for me, this is quick and easy. So now I've got him again. This time I'm going to assign a satin stitch to him, and I'll just pick a color that's going to show up on the screen. All right, and I go back to the bucket and then click on here to assign that satin stitch. And then when we go to the next page, here I have a satin stitch. Now what I'm going to do, I've got a couple of things that I can adjust on the satin stitch. I'm going to make it a little bit wider because I want really good coverage, because I'm planning on using faux fur for this, so I want to make sure I'm really controlling all those little fuzzies. And then I can also make adjustments to the density. And again, because I have kind of an unruly base fabric, I'm just going to pop the density up to 110%, okay? And then when I go to set and preview, and we're just walking through the regular process, here you see I've got my satin stitch little bear, and when I go to set, he's going to pop in as my last finish. So I have, from a shape in the design center, I have a cut file for my ScanNCut, I've got a tack down line or positioning line, and I have my satin finish stitch. Isn't that fun? And super easy. Yeah, I mean, these machines are amazing. I did stitch out this little shirt, and I wanted you guys to see how adorable this is. That's all for faux fur, right? It's super cute, easy to do. Now I can't have one of these shirts for me because I'd be petting the bear all day long. That would be
yeah, Tina, that might be a little awkward.
Yeah, that might be a little hard, but just a really fun way to take those shapes and do some creative applique projects.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute. Everybody's saying so cute. And you can go back and watch this from the beginning. I see some people rolling in later. This is the third or fourth applique thing that she has shown. You have got to watch this whole show. It's fantastic. And yes, Glenda, Gus is the mouse from Cinderella, and my name is not Cinderella, so Gus needs to get out.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny.
That is funny. Everybody's saying so. That is so cute. So Tina, while you're on here, just somebody had asked a question, and maybe you could help with that. Because we had talked about cutting different fabrics with the ScanNCut. One had backing, one did not. So there was someone on here that was saying that they cut a piece of fabric that they had put some starch on with the fabric mat and the fabric cutting tool, but the fabric still frayed a little bit. And she wants to know if you have any tips for that. I mean, I personally have to starch it a lot, and it also depends on the fabric, but I would love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, if you've got a high thread count fabric, you can get away with a little bit less starch. But you know, a lot of the quilting cottons that they sell in the big box stores don't have a really high thread count. So what I do is I saturate it. I mean, I get it completely wet to the point where I can almost squeeze a couple of drops of starch right out of it. And then I iron it dry with the iron. And at that point, the fabric really has the consistency of a piece of paper. It even makes a funny noise like paper if you shake it. And then you'll be ready to cut it and have really good results.
That's exactly. I never thought about making it that wet, but I do. I just keep spraying it. And that is kind of how you described it perfectly. And that might help because that sounds exactly like what her issue was. Timothy wants to know, could you make a nice applique label for a quilt? That's a good idea.
Oh yeah, actually, and some of those shapes that are in the design center would be perfect for that, right? I would go in, I think the first category of shapes has a lot of things that I would think of as like frames, and then just basically convert it to a run stitch, make a copy, and then save it into the pocket and turn the other one to satin stitch, and you're good to go.
Very easy. And so a lot of people were making comments about how cool with the ScanNCut, how cool that was. And yes, you had put the USB in the side. Somebody was asking. I saw she touched the USB. Yes, because the USB was in the side of her machine.
I did because I had they were in different rooms, and so I used the USB, but I could just as easily have sent everything to the ScanNCut wirelessly.
And somebody was asking, do you have to use Canva for that, Canvas Workspace?
I actually didn't use the Canvas Workspace for anything that I did today. I did it all just with the ScanNCut and just with the Still Air machine. You can go into Canvas and do similar things, and then you even have some additional shapes that are in the software that you get to use for free. So I would encourage folks to look at that as well.
Excellent. And did you cut the fur on the bear with the ScanNCut?
I did not. The fur was like half an inch long, and so I did a couple test cuts, and it just was a little bit too unruly. So what I did is I stitched that placement line like we did on the little Winnie the Pooh, and then I cut around the edges with a pair of scissors.
Nice. Yeah. So all of you that are asking questions, these are great questions, by the way. So the designs that she was using were built into the machine, except for the one that she had taken a photo of. And I think it was Shirley. I can't remember if I got the name wrong, but I believe it was Shirley, but it was way up there. So I'll just try to remember what she had asked. She wanted to know, when you were taking the photo with the app, she was asking, she might have missed that part, but she was saying, how did you get that into the machine? And could you just you don't have to show it again, but if you could just mention it one more time.
All right, so let's come back over to the sample table and let's do this again. So here's the picture, right? And it's in, for the still air, they need to be in the still air hoops with the special registration marks at the top and the bottom. All right. And then on my phone, and by the way, Brother has some really awesome apps. If you guys haven't downloaded them yet, I'd really encourage you to do it. So before we go into this one, just really quickly, the apps that you have, My Design Snap, which is a way to get pictures and positioning for the still air from your phone to your machine. There's also a My Stitch Monitor, which is a monitoring program that you can start your machine and go off and live your life. And if anything needs your attention, it'll let you know. And then one of my favorites too is the Brother Support Center app. So, you know, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, is this hoop going to fit on my machine? Or how do I do this? And if you can't remember and you don't want to go to your computer, you can just go into the Support Center app and access manuals and all kinds of cool information. Okay. So for this particular example, though, we're going to start here with the My Design Snap. I'm trying to hold this up so you can see maybe the names better. So we're going to My Design Snap. Okay. And so you'll notice that it automatically is looking to take a picture. Now my camera here is not quite high enough for you to see the whole picture taking, but basically I'm holding it above the shot, and eventually it finds the registration marks and it says hold 1, 2, 3, and it takes the picture. So here's a picture of what's in my hoop, and then all I do is I say send to the machine. Okay, and then it says it's been sent, and it tells me it was sent to the design center, so that's easy enough to do. And then again, if we pop back over to the still air, if you're looking to retrieve it, you're just going to go to the My Design Center, and then these are the options up here for retrieving. I'm going to Line Design, and remember I sent it wirelessly, not through USB, so I'm going to the wireless icon. And the most recent picture that I've sent is at the top of the list. So when I click here, it's just going to pull that up for me. So there's my picture. And easy mode is for line drawings. And a minute ago when I had a little bit of trouble for the sewing machine, it's because I picked the fill setting and not the line. So here it is, and then I'll just hit set. And we'll give it just a couple of seconds here. And I would, at this point, I would use these little arrows to crop it. And I'll probably bring this one in just a smidge, right? And then basically I'd hit OK and set. And now I have the image in the design center, and it's ready for me to assign stitches or fills or anything else I want to do with it.
Very easy to do. And a lot of people are asking about the app. So can you, let's see, Susie says, will this app work on the Luminaire?
The My Design Snap has limited features on the Luminaire, and that's because you have a camera on your machine. So you don't need the camera part of your phone. But yes, you can. Like what I do is when I'm out in the world, right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm always attracted to pretty things, right? So if I see a pretty thing, I snap a picture of my phone, and then I can send it to the machine and try and do something fun with it. And the other thing that I didn't say, but I need to say, is all the apps we've talked about today are completely free. So the My Design Snap app is free. The Support Center app is free. The My Stitch Monitor is free, and so is the Campus Workspace program for the ScanNCut. I mean, Brother is just so generous with tools to make our creative lives easy and fun.
Absolutely. I love that. I was reading some of the comments of who everyone said they're going to go back and watch the whole thing and start at the beginning and follow along and do all of your different appliques. I don't know which one's my favorite. I like them all. That sewing machine though, it looked so cool. I could see that as a wall decoration.
It's really pretty. I agree.
The one that you embroidered. Any other questions? I see you all saying they love this, and many of you joined late. Of course, you can go back and watch the replay. You can watch the replay on Brother Sewing or Crafting Facebook or YouTube page. Now, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to click subscribe, and every time we go live, you won't miss it, hopefully. And Facebook, I think they've changed a little bit. Now you have to like and follow, but be sure to follow because once they make all these changes, that's how you'll be able to see the live shows if you prefer to watch there. Anything else, Tina, that you want to add?
I think I walked them through enough things that probably their heads are spinning a little bit, huh?
I think their heads are spinning. That was such a great way to do applique the easy way. I love that. The very easy way.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Susie, great to see you. Arnell, it's always great to see everyone that comes back for all these live shows. We appreciate it so much because I know a lot of us are busy, and we try to do it at the lunch hour, so you can join us if you're at work, but you can always go back and watch the replay. Tina, this is great. What a great way to start your sessions on the live here at your site virtually. Everybody say thank you.
This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there's a few second delay, so I was just making sure there weren't any last minute questions, and it looks like they're not. So don't forget that when you all try this with your Brother ScanNCut and Brother Machine, make sure you take photos, add it to social media, and use hashtag Brother Sews because then they can see what you're working on. And you never know, your work might be featured one of these days. So Tina, this was excellent. I cannot wait to try this out. And thank you for being so thorough in your tutorial because you walked them through every single step. Okay, here, I knew there was going to be two more questions here. One, let's see, I think it's Diana. She has the Dream Machine too. So the app, she wants to know about the app, but you have the scanner, the scanning mat, by the way, on your Dream Machine too.
So what you would do on the Dream Machine is you would draw the picture with the ScanNCut, put it in your hoop, and do the scanning in the My Design Center. That's how you would capture that image.
There you go. I love that scanning mat. I think once you started with that, that's just one that it's just so easy to use. Question, is that sewing machine design on the website? No, I believe it was built into the machine, wasn't it?
It is. It's built into the machine. It's the icon with the Eiffel Tower and the tree. And then once you hit that, the sub menu, it looks like there's a gear and some sort of horn, which I'll call by the wrong name. And it's in there.
It's built into the ScanNCut, not the embroidery machine, just to make
it's built into the ScanNCut. That's correct.
All right. I think I already answered that one. Yeah, no, I think we got everybody. Well, thank you all for watching. This is great, Tina. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to go try this myself. And I have to go get that sewing machine. You know, when you see it in there, it doesn't look the same as when somebody shows you with a completed project. So yeah, it was awesome.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for joining today.
All right. Everyone have a great day. Don't forget Saturday, there will be another episode of It's So Easy playing at noon. And other than that, I'll see you next week. I believe next week is at 2 p.m. with Emily Thompson on Tuesday. So mark your calendar. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.